For 10 years, he ate Thanksgiving alone, until a black waitress knocked with one turkey and rewrote his entire life. Han Jae-min never missed a Thanksgiving, not because he loved the holiday, not because he cared for tradition, but because some ghosts demand an audience. Every year at exactly 2 p.m., he set the table for two plates, 2 napkins, 2 wine glasses, perfectly mirrored, perfectly wrong. The giant house sat silent around him, perched high above the city like a glass fortress. Down below, families shouted at TVs, burned pies, laughed around crowded tables. Up here, the only sound was the soft clink of silverware on porcelain. 10 years. 10 years of carving a turkey for a brother buried too young. 10 years of pretending the second chair wasn't empty. 10 years of paying for sins he thought he'd buried with his old life. Today was no different. He sliced a piece of turkey and placed it on the second plate like muscle memory, not heart. The wine in the untouched glass reflected his face, sharper now, colder now, the scar near his temple a permanent reminder of the world he'd built and the people he'd lost. Outside, the afternoon sun washed Koreatown in a warm gold, but inside the walls of this house, time stood still. To the streets, Han Jae-min was the kind of mafia boss you prayed you never owed. A man who didn't need threats, his silence did the talking. A strategist, a shadow, a ghost in tailored shirts who disappeared long before the police arrived. But even the most feared man in the district couldn't outrun loneliness when it decided to sit beside him. He lifted his glass toward the empty seat. "Happy Thanksgiving, Minho," he murmured, his voice cracked only at the name. He took a sip. The wine tasted like quiet regret. He didn't notice the security monitor in the corner flicker. He didn't see the figure walking up the steep hill toward his gate. He didn't hear footsteps, quick, determined, coming from the direction of the small diner at the bottom of the hill. He didn't see her until she pressed the intercom button. A soft chime, a blink of movement on the monitor. A woman, young, brown skin glowing in the afternoon light. Curls escaping her tied bun, apron still on, diner name embroidered across the chest, carrying a foil-wrapped turkey container with both hands. He frowned. This hill wasn't a place people wandered. He pressed the intercom button. "Yes?" The voice that answered trembled, but only slightly. "Hi, sorry to bother you. I'm Naomi." A beat. "You don't know me, but I think you once saved my brother." His breath stalled. That night, that alley, the knife, the kid, the terrified sister. He remembered her, standing between danger and her brother with shaking hands but unshakable eyes. He didn't answer. She continued, voice soft, earnest. I never got to thank you for what you did. My brother, he's alive because of you, and I didn't want to let another Thanksgiving pass without saying that." Then she said the part that hit him hardest. "And I work at the diner down there. I was on my lunch break. I looked up at your house and..." She swallowed. "I saw you eating alone." Inside the dining room, something inside him flinched. "I don't know your story," she whispered, "but nobody should eat alone on Thanksgiving. Not even the man who scares half the neighborhood." A tiny, breathless laugh fought its way through her nerves. "I brought a turkey. It's not fancy, but it's real. And it's warm." He stared at the monitor. A waitress, in her uniform, in the afternoon sun, holding a turkey like a peace offering, brave enough to walk up a hill where grown men refused to look. No one had approached his door like this in 10 years. No fear, no agenda, just humanity. He clicked the gate open. "Come up." Naomi exhaled shakily as the tall metal gate slid aside. She half expected guards to swarm out or alarms to blare. Instead, silence. The kind of silence that felt like a line being crossed. She climbed the path toward the glass house, each step sending flutters through her stomach. Her sneakers squeaked on the stone pavement, her apron flapping lightly in the breeze. She reached the door and hesitated. Should she knock? Should she wait? Before she decided, the door opened. He stood there. The man from the alley. No shadows this time. No coat. No blood. Just a white dress shirt rolled at the sleeves. Strong shoulders. Sharp jaw. Eyes that could slice stone. Han Jae-min. Up close, he was even more dangerous and more human than she remembered. His gaze traveled over her uniform, her flushed cheeks, the foil-wrapped turkey she held like a shield. "You came during your shift," he said quietly. "Lunch break," she replied, cheeks warming. "I ran." He almost smiled. Almost. "Why?" She clutched the turkey tighter. "Because you saved my brother," she said. "And because today's Thanksgiving. And because—" Her eyes flicked past him to the empty table. "No one deserves to eat alone." For a long moment he didn't move. Then he stepped aside. "Come in." Naomi swallowed and crossed the threshold into a world that looked far too clean, far too expensive, far too empty. Her sneakers squeaked on marble. Her uniform suddenly felt small. Her curls frizzed in all directions. She cleared her throat. I didn't know what you like, so the diner just... We had this left and I'm talking too much, aren't I?" He looked at her, not amused, but something softer. "You're nervous," he said. "Wouldn't you be?" she shot back. You." He blinked. She didn't flinch from him. He nodded at the turkey. "May I?" he asked. She handed it over. Her fingers brushed his. A jolt. He felt it too. She stepped closer to the table. "You set 2 plates," she said quietly. He stiffened. "It's tradition." "Yours?" she asked gently. "No," he replied. "My brother's." She understood instantly. Loss recognizes loss. "I'm sorry," she whispered. He gave the slightest nod, acknowledging the grief but not indulging it. Naomi looked at the untouched second plate. Something in her chest tightened. "I can sit there," she said softly. "Only if you want. Only if it doesn't feel wrong." He looked at her like she'd spoken a language no one had used with him in years. "Naomi," he said slowly, "why did you really come?" She swallowed. Because kindness is a currency she never had enough of. Because sometimes the universe nudges you. Because this man had stepped into an alley for her family without hesitation. "Because no one checked on us when we were struggling," she said. "And today I checked on you." He wasn't a man who showed emotions easily, but something shifted, very slightly, like the first crack in a winter lake before it melts. "Sit," he said quietly. She took the seat across from him, the seat that had been waiting 10 years for someone worthy. And as he unwrapped the turkey she'd brought, something unspoken settled between them. Not charity, not debt, not danger. Possibility. Naomi Brooks didn't belong in a mansion like this. Not with her faded apron, soft curls escaping her bun, and the warm turkey she'd rescued from becoming diner trash. But somehow, sitting across from Han Jae-min at a perfectly set Thanksgiving table, she didn't look out of place. She looked like the only thing in the whole house that was real. Jaemin placed the turkey she brought on the table. For 10 years, no one had touched that second plate. Today she did. "You can serve yourself," he said quietly. She blinked. "You sure? This looks like ritual-level setup." A shadow crossed his face. "It is." She hesitated, then gently placed a spoonful on her plate, softening her movements like she knew the table held memories she didn't want to break. Jaemin watched her. Not like a man watches a woman, like a starving man watches a reminder that food exists. "Why are you staring?" she asked. "You walked into a Mafia boss's house without fear," he said. "I'm trying to understand that." "It wasn't bravery," she replied. "It was instinct." "What instinct tells someone to come here?" She shrugged, cheeks warming. "Maybe the same one that told you to walk into that alley and save my brother." He looked at her for a long moment. "It wasn't an instinct," he said. "It was anger. I don't like seeing the weak preyed on." "But I wasn't weak," she said softly. "No," he agreed. "You weren't." Their eyes held. Something small shifted in him. Something small shifted in her. Naomi ate a piece of turkey and winced. "This is cold." Jaemin looked offended. "It's room temperature." "It's cold," she insisted, then grinned. "Want me to heat it up? I know what I'm doing. I work in a kitchen." He leaned back, folding his arms. "I have people for that." "What people?" she teased. "I see nobody here except you and your expensive silence." A sound escaped him, not a laugh, but dangerously close. She gasped. "Oh my God! Did the Mafia boss just smile?" "I did not," he said immediately. "You did. I saw it. History has been made. Should I call CNN?" He turned away, jaw tightening, but she saw it, the curl at the corner of his lips. He didn't remember the last time someone had spoken to him like this. with humor, with normalcy, with light. He gestured toward the kitchen. "Come," he said. She followed him through a corridor that smelled like cedar and quiet wealth. In the kitchen, everything gleamed. Steel counters, untouched stovetop, appliances still shiny from disuse. "Do you ever cook here?" she asked. "I heat tea," he said dryly. "That doesn't count." "It counts to me." Naomi rolled her eyes, turned the oven on, and reheated the turkey. He watched her move around his kitchen like she belonged there, opening drawers, checking temperature, humming under her breath. Her presence softened the edges of the room. She grabbed 2 plates, plated the turkey properly, sprinkled a little seasoning from a jar she found, and placed 1 plate in front of him. "There," she said, "a real Thanksgiving meal, not whatever cold sadness you were eating before." He stared at the food, then at her. "You cooked for me," he said quietly. She blinked. "I mean, you saved my brother. A warm turkey is the least I could do." "No," he said. "It's more than that." Her chest tightened. Softness from a man like him was unexpected, disarming, dangerous. They ended up sitting on the floor by the massive living room window, plates beside them, city stretching beneath like scattered jewels. Naomi hugged her knees. "Why were you alone?" she asked. "Why do you ask?" he replied. "Because when I saw you, sitting at that table meant for 2, something about it felt wrong." He didn't answer for a moment. Then, "My brother used to sit across from me. 10 years ago, he was killed by a rival group. I blame myself. I still do." Naomi's breath hitched. There it was, the weight she sensed in him the second she saw his eyes. "How old was he?" she asked gently. 20. "Younger than my brother," she murmured. That's barely a life." He exhaled sharply. "His death was my turning point. The moment I realized power doesn't protect everyone. Since then, I built an empire to ensure no one under me suffers like he did." "Even if it costs your own happiness?" she asked softly. "Happiness is a luxury for people who don't lead others." She shook her head. "That's a lie." He looked at her then, really looked. Her conviction wasn't a challenge. It was a belief. "And you?" he asked. "Why aren't you at your own Thanksgiving table?" She swallowed. "My mom works nights. My brother's trying to stay out of trouble. We don't have big dinners anymore. So, I work, keeps the lights on." He nodded slowly. "You carry others," he said, "even when it breaks you." Her eyes softened. "And you bury yourself for others, even when it kills you." Their truths mirrored. 2 lives spent sacrificing in different languages. She shifted slightly closer. Their shoulders didn't touch, but almost. "You know," she said quietly, "after you saved Darius, he said something strange." "What?" "He said your face looked like someone who didn't want to be where he was, like someone doing the right thing in the wrong world." Jamin froze. No one had ever described him like that. She looked at him, curls framing her face, eyes warm in a way he wasn't used to. "I think you're not the monster people paint you as," she whispered. "I think you're just wounded." He let out a trembling breath. He hadn't realized he'd been holding one. "And you," he murmured, "you walked into danger to protect your brother, then walked up a hill to check on a stranger. You're either fearless or reckless." She smiled faintly. "Maybe both." He didn't smile back. Instead, he asked softly, "Why did you really come today?" Naomi hesitated. "Because something pulled me. Because I couldn't stand seeing you lonely. Because your silence felt louder than my fear." She didn't say any of that. Instead, "I came because kindness should go both ways." He closed his eyes. That hit deeper than expected. Her hand rested near his on the floor. Close, very close. She noticed the scar across his knuckles. He noticed the softness of her palm. Neither moved, neither dared. But something shifted in the air. Naomi took a small breath. "I should go back soon. My break's almost over." He nodded, but he didn't get up. He didn't want to. "Will I see you again?" he asked quietly. She blinked. "You want to?" "Yes," he said without hesitation. Her lips parted slightly. "Well, I mean, you can come by the diner. Booth 3 has the best light." She laughed awkwardly. "I don't know why I said that. That was weird. Ignore that. Please ignore that." "I won't," he murmured. Their eyes held. For the first time in 10 years, the empty second place on his table made sense. It wasn't waiting for his brother. It was waiting for someone who could sit across from him without fear, someone who saw the man beneath the scars, someone who knocked on his door in a waitress uniform with a warm turkey and a warmer heart. Naomi stood, brushing imaginary crumbs from her apron. "Thank you for the meal," she said, "and for letting me be the first person to sit in that chair again." He stood too. "Thank you for knocking," he replied. She smiled at him, full, soft, real, the kind of smile that rewrites lives quietly. "See you around, Jamin." She turned to leave. He didn't try to stop her, but as she stepped out the door, he said the one thing he shouldn't have said. "Naomi." She looked back. He swallowed. "You made today bearable." Her heart fluttered violently. "I'll bring a better turkey next time," she whispered. And then she disappeared down the hill, leaving him standing in the doorway, feeling something he hadn't felt in a decade. Hope. Real, terrifying hope. For weeks after that Thanksgiving, Han Jae-min found himself doing something he had never done in all his years as a Mafia boss. Checking his watch. Not for meetings, not for shipments, not for enemies, but for 2:15 p.m., Naomi's lunch break. Every day, like clockwork, she walked out of the diner with her apron still tied around her waist, curls escaping, a to-go cup of sweet tea in her hand. And every day he found an excuse to be near the corner of her street. Sometimes he happened to be passing by. Sometimes he needed to check territory. Sometimes he just parked across from the diner and pretended to read messages he never opened. Naomi started catching him. "Are you stalking me?" she teased one afternoon, leaning on his car window. "Yes," he said without hesitation. The blunt honesty made her laugh so hard she snorted. That laugh began the softest war he'd ever lost. Their routine became its own world. He walked her back from shifts when the diner closed late. She brought him leftover apple pie because your house looks like it's never seen sugar. He fixed her broken door lock without telling her. She scolded him for beating up a man who catcalled her. He built her a bookshelf when she said she loved reading. She made him ramen at midnight because he looked tired. He told her things he had told no one. She saw things in him no one had bothered to look for. Naomi learned quickly that he wasn't cold. He was lonely in a language nobody knew how to read. Jamin learned that she wasn't fearless. She was brave because life hadn't given her another option. Darius, her brother, noticed first. "You smile more now," he said one day, eyeing Jamin's car outside their building. "No, I don't," she muttered, flushing. "You do," he insisted. "And your scary Korean man looks less scary, more like someone who wants to pretend he's human." She swatted him playfully, but he was right. Something in Jamin softened. Something in Naomi opened. They didn't call it love, not yet. Love was too fragile a word for the life he lived. But they were orbiting the same center, and everyone could see it. It happened 3 months after Thanksgiving. Naomi finished her shift and walked outside to find Jae-min waiting by his car, leaning against the door, hands in pockets. He looked tired, bone-tired, the kind that comes from running your life with precision and paranoia. She stepped closer. "You okay?" she asked gently. "I need to tell you something," he said. She felt her heartbeat shift. "What is it?" He opened the passenger door. "Get in, please." She slid in. He drove. Silence filled the car like another passenger. He didn't take her to the hill. He didn't take her to her building. He took her to a quiet lookout above the city where the lights spread like spilled diamonds. He parked, cut the engine. Then he faced her. "Naomi," he said quietly, "I can't be with you in this life." Her stomach dropped. "What?" "You deserve someone who can take you to dinner without checking exits. Someone who won't get shot at for loving you." Her breath caught. "You think I care about—" "Listen to me." His voice cracked. A controlled man losing control. "My name, my job, my past. They will kill anything good I try to touch." Her eyes softened. "Then touch carefully," she whispered. He shook his head. "Naomi, I do things you should never see. I make decisions that keep others safe, but they stain my hands. I don't want you near this world." She reached out and touched the scar near his temple. "I'm not scared of you," she said. He shut his eyes. "That's what terrifies me." A small, shaky silence passed. Then she said the words he never thought anyone would tell him. You're allowed to want a different life, Jamin. He opened his eyes, and for the first time, he let her see him break. Teach me how, he whispered. It didn't happen overnight. A mafia boss can't simply walk away. But Jamin wasn't like the others. He wasn't greedy, wasn't reckless, wasn't addicted to the throne. His men were loyal because he had kept them alive, not because he ruled with fear. He called a meeting with his lieutenants. Calm, final. I'm stepping down. Silence, shock, fear. You can't, one argued. The district needs leadership. Then you lead it, he said. What about the Russians, the Armenians, the street crews? They respect me, he cut in. Not the violence, me. And because they respected him, they listened. He negotiated with rival groups, closed books on old debts, transferred territories, set boundaries, protected the families under him. He dismantled his empire piece by piece, not in blood, but in order. Nobody believed it was possible, except Naomi. One night she found him sitting on his empty living room floor, lights off, house half-packed. You really did it, she whispered. He exhaled slowly. I'm nobody now. That's the best thing you've ever been, she said, cupping his cheek. That was the night he kissed her. Not like a mafia boss, not like a savior, not like a man trying to own something. He kissed her like someone tasting hope for the first time. They moved quietly, sold the house on the hill, packed only what mattered, took only what memory allowed. He traded tailored shirts for simple sweaters. She traded her apron for a passport. They left the country before anyone could ask too many questions. Japan first, then Portugal, then finally Canada. A quiet town near the coast. Small apartment. Early morning markets. The kind of place where nobody asked who you used to be. A week after settling in, he said, I can't be Han Jae-min anymore. What do you want to be? She asked. He thought for a long moment. Then, Jay. She smiled. And I'll call you that. What about you? He asked. Do you want a new last name? She walked up to him, placed her forehead against his. Maybe, she whispered. When we get married. He froze. Married? Her eyes softened. You walked away from your whole identity for me. You saved my brother. You gave us both a new life. Tell me why we shouldn't choose each other fully. He swallowed. I don't deserve you. Luckily, I get to decide that, she whispered. He kissed her again. Longer, softer, certain. They married on a small cliff overlooking the water. No suit, no wedding arch, no crowd. Just sunrise, ocean wind, and 2 witnesses from the local cafe. Naomi wore a simple white dress. Jay wore a blue shirt that wasn't ironed well. He trembled when he said, I do. She didn't let go of his hands. Afterward, they walked home barefoot, laughing at the seagulls trying to steal their breakfast. Jay found a job at a small mechanic shop. He was terrible the first week, better the second. Great by the month. He liked it. Hard work, honest work, no shadows. Naomi got a job at a local bakery. Slow mornings, warm bread, people who smiled at her like she belonged. Sometimes Jay would wait outside the shop, leaning on the door frame with 2 coffees, watching her greet customers with the same light that once walked up a Mafia hill. Every day he touched her waist lightly when she walked past. Every night she curled against him like he was the safest place on earth. He wasn't a boss anymore. She wasn't tired anymore. They were just 2 people who had finally stepped into the lives they deserved. One evening, Naomi walked into their apartment to find a table set for 2. 2 plates, 2 napkins, 2 glasses. She froze. Jay? He stepped from the kitchen, cheeks warm. I wanted to try cooking a Thanksgiving meal, he said awkwardly. For us. Her throat tightened. He gestured to the second seat. This plate isn't for my brother anymore, he said softly. It's for the life I almost never had. She walked into his arms. You're home now, she whispered. He nodded. I'm home. They ate. They laughed. They danced badly to an old radio station. They watched the sunset from their tiny balcony. And when night settled, he whispered, You knocked on my door once and saved me. She smiled, tears shining. And you saved me long before that. 2 broken worlds, 2 stubborn hearts, 1 quiet. Thanksgiving afternoon that changed everything, and a love story that began with a single brave knock, an ending in a life neither of them dared to dream of.